NJZ's pit stop was bad messy. Write your paragraphs in the comments, but hear me out. I love the girls, seriously. But breathe before I speak. It wasn't the best, admit it.
Breathe before I speak.
Alright, so y'all just seen that corny ass shit.
There's no other way. Cut from a different fabric. 여기저기 흔들린 척은 퇴근하지. 아무리 떨려도 색다른 바람같이. Now I keep it moving, don't keep it static. Breathe before I speak. Eyes on me.
At first glance, NewJeans fits neatly into the Y2K revival box. The butterfly clips, layered tanks, jersey crop tops, and chunky sneakers all scream early 2000s mall girl. But the more you watch, the more you realize it's not really Y2K. Or at least, not in the way most people understand it. This isn't just aesthetic nostalgia, it's temporal distortion. Temporal distortion refers to a perceived alteration in the flow or duration of time, where time seems to pass faster or slower than usual, or where the relationship between events in time seems distorted. Their world isn't a throwback. It's a dream constructed from fragments of memory, filtered through modern sensibility, and carefully designed to feel both eerily familiar and subtly unreal. YouTuber Chojimi put it perfectly when he described NewJeans' aesthetic as anachronistic. Their world exists out of sync with time, a dreamy blend of eras where the camcorder footage feels like 1999. The outfits range from everyday Gen Z staples to modern luxury pieces. And in another video, the smartphones in their hands are unmistakably 2023, but the vibe still felt nostalgic. But that's exactly the point. Their aesthetic doesn't belong to any single decade. It belongs to a feeling. A hazy, universal memory of girlhood, shaped not by historical accuracy, but by emotional truth. Their earlier videos played deeply into visual sameness. Long, dark hair, minimal makeup, matching school uniforms, or similarly styled casual wear. No neon, no glitter, no eye-catching differentiation in an industry obsessed with turning each idol into a color-coded character. From day one, NewJeans didn't stand out. They blended in. They moved like a single organism. You couldn't always tell who was who, and maybe you weren't supposed to. They weren't personalities. They were creating a mood. But in their more recent releases, a shift has happened, and it's fascinating to watch. There's more individualism now, though it never breaks the cohesion. Hani sports a short bob wig, instantly distinguishing her silhouette. Danielle was seen wearing her hair in its natural, voluminous curls. There are subtle changes in styling too, more variance in outfits, makeup that hints at each member's vibe. Yet somehow, it still works. The illusion doesn't break, it deepens. Their individuality doesn't shatter the dream, it texturizes it. Instead of copying early 2000s fashion directly, NewJeans interprets it through a Gen Z lens, leaning into mismatched pieces, awkward layering, and raw, unfiltered styling that feels almost too authentic to be styled. That's why it doesn't feel dated. That's the genius. It looks like they rolled out of bed wearing something cool, when in reality, every thread has been curated. The result is an aesthetic that's deeply emotional, not just visual. Their clothes don't just look like something teens wore. They look like something you might have even worn in some forgotten memory. The group's uniformity has always served a deeper emotional purpose, evoking memory. And memory, as we know, is rarely precise. It's soft, blurry. You don't remember the exact shade of a shirt or the name of the girl who wore it. You remember the feeling. That's what NewJeans offers. Emotional accuracy, not historical accuracy. Their aesthetic doesn't reflect what the early 2000s were. That wasn't the point. It reflects how they felt. This is why even now, with more visible distinctions between members, the cohesion remains intact. It's not about sameness, it's about harmony. Their visual language still speaks in tones of youth, moodiness, and liminality. Even when their styling veers into playful or quirky, there's still a quiet, deliberate restraint. And it's this balance between individuality and unity, between trend and timelessness, that keeps the NewJeans aesthetic so compelling. They aren't just styled to be trendy, they're styled to be remembered. Their fashion doesn't transport you back to the past. It transports you to your own emotional landscape, the one where half-formed memories and adolescent longing still lives. The Performance of Effortlessness. One of the most brilliant, and perhaps most deceptive, layers of the NewJeans brand is its performance of simplicity. Everything about them, at first glance, seems accessible, approachable, casual. The kind of girls you could sit next to on the train or hang out with after school. Their fashion looks like it came straight from a thrift haul. Their choreography feels like something your friends might have come up with during a sleepover. Their visuals aren't glossy and hyper-lit. They're grainy, natural, lo-fi. It's also effortless. But that's the trick. It's not effortless. It's the illusion of effortlessness. Every element of NewJeans' aesthetic is curated to feel uncurated. Their music videos might look like a teenage girl filmed them on a handheld camcorder, but behind that shaky frame is a production budget most rookie groups could only dream of. Their choreography might feel like it was improvised on the spot, but it's actually not. I remember seeing a video, either featuring Danielle or another member, where it was mentioned that the choreographer encourages each member to add their own spin to the choreography. The goal is to make it feel both personal and cohesive. And if you browse through internet forums, you'll often find fans noting how the choreography, while it appears simple, is actually deceptively difficult. They're meant to move like themselves, to make the dance look natural, not synchronized. The goal isn't perfection, it's believability. Even their fashion, the oversized jerseys, baggy jeans, band tees, and hair buns, feels like something any teenage girl could wear. But this too is part of the design. The styling teams are deliberately creating a visual language that mimics the randomness of Gen Z self-expression. It's meant to look like they just threw something on. But make no mistake, someone threw it on for them, with a mood board, a lighting setup, and probably a few corporate meetings beforehand. And when you pull back and examine the scale of it all, the contrast becomes even sharper. Think about it. Every single song on their debut EP had a music video. Some songs had 2 or 3. That's not minimalist. That's massive production under the guise of intimacy. You're getting to know their brand not just through lyrics and styling, but through repetition, through multiple angles, through careful mood construction. And let's not forget, less than a year after debut, all 5 members of NewJeans were named global ambassadors for major luxury fashion houses like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Burberry, and Dior. That effortless, casual wardrobe? Many of those pieces are thousands of dollars, styled to look like something out of your closet, but totally inaccessible to the average teenager. Those price tags were anything but casual, because NewJeans didn't come out of nowhere. Hybe reportedly invested over 21 billion Korean won, approximately $14.4 million US, into Ador to develop and debut the group. That's not even including the industry connections, marketing muscle, and infrastructure that come with being part of a global entertainment conglomerate. They've enjoyed privileges that are unfathomable to most idols from smaller agencies. This isn't a rags-to-riches story. It's not a scrappy underdog narrative. It's high-gloss branding wearing a thrift store filter. The girls are clearly talented, but the success wasn't built on raw talent alone. It was designed. It's that layered contradiction that makes the brand so powerful and also so precarious. Because while NewJeans may feel like the every girl group, their ability to pull off that aesthetic is built on aesthetic privilege. There's a term for this dissonance, class-coded perception, where the same visual language reads differently depending on who's using it. A rich person wearing thrift store clothes is considered fashionable and edgy. A poor person wearing the exact same thing is seen as sloppy. A bilingual rich girl with an accent is sophisticated. A poor girl with the same accent is foreign. NewJeans gets away with this aesthetic because they're backed by Hybe, because there's a well-oiled marketing machine ensuring that their messy ponytail is perfectly camera-ready. If this exact concept debuted under a lesser-known label, if 5 unknown teens with no budget made music videos brushing their teeth and dancing in pajamas, people would call it low budget. They wouldn't see nostalgia, they'd see lack. The same softness would feel amateur. The same styling would be criticized as uninspired. The same genuineness would be labeled cringe. And I think that's part of what's beginning to shift in public perception now. Take the performance of Pit Stop, for example.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Breathe before I speak. Woo, woo. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Technically, it wasn't a huge departure from their previous work. The styling was consistent. The vibe was in line. The music had that same restrained garage pop undercurrent. But suddenly, people weren't charmed. They were underwhelmed. And it makes you wonder, is it the song that changed? Or is it that the illusion is wearing thin? Without the perfect brand myth holding it all together, the aesthetic starts to look different. The lo-fi visuals look lazy, not poetic. The simplicity starts to feel like a lack of innovation. And the choreography, so previously praised for its naturalism, now feels like it's missing something. Because once you know how the magic trick is done, it's harder to be enchanted. And this is the risk of building a brand on subtleties, on tone, on mood. The moment people start to doubt the authenticity of it, it can all collapse. Because it wasn't just about the visuals. It was about the feeling the visuals gave you. And that feeling relied on trust. And this realization brings us to something else that's always lingered in the background of the NewJeans myth. Min Hee-jin is not the genius. Not alone. Yes, she's the face of the creative direction. Yes, she came with a legacy from SM and a sharp understanding of K-pop's visual power. But let's be real. Branding doesn't happen in a vacuum. Creative direction, especially at this scale, is a team sport. There were designers, choreographers, cinematographers, editors, stylists, art directors, branding consultants, and likely entire sub-teams handling everything from mood board execution to camera angles to member presentation. I've heard, and this is floating around in fan discussions, that some of the original creative team left Ador and followed NewJeans. Others remained at Hybe. That alone should tell you something. This was never a one-woman show. As someone who understands branding and marketing, I've always found it strange, honestly a bit frustrating, how Min Hee-jin gets all the credit. When in reality, ideas like this are shaped in rooms. They're refined in Google Docs. They're debated in Slack threads and pulled together during 2 a.m. editing sprints. She may have been the conductor, but there was an entire orchestra involved. And now, with the split between her and Hybe, we're starting to see what happens when that creative machinery is fractured. Who brought what to the table, who stayed, who left, and what the absence of that invisible labor means moving forward. Because when the magic starts to fall apart, you begin to notice the strings, the silhouette of the stagehands, the fine print in the fantasy. And suddenly, what felt like just 5 girls being girls doesn't feel quite so spontaneous anymore. The illusion of closeness was always carefully staged. One of the most unsettling things about the current unraveling of the NewJeans brand is how it exposes the gap between who you thought you knew and what's actually behind the curtain. Because let's be honest, part of NewJeans' appeal wasn't just the music or the visuals, it was the illusion of closeness, of familiarity, of knowing the girls. Not just in the obvious, variety show, fan service-heavy way that most idol groups rely on. NewJeans were different, more subtle, more immersive. Watching them didn't feel like you were being pandered to. It felt like you were simply watching people. Teenagers, girls brushing their teeth, dancing in hallways, whispering to each other between choreography takes. And through that, You built a version of them in your head. Not just as idols, but as individuals. As people you felt like you understood. But what's happening now is breaking that illusion. Because now you know. You've seen the tension between Ador and Hybe. You've watched the messages. You've heard about the letters, the courtroom appearances and speeches, the strategic silence, and the alleged loyalty to a controversial figure. Suddenly, you're imagining Hani speaking at the National Assembly, Danielle backing a controversial CEO. You're watching them navigate messy, silent conflict with label mates. And it feels jarring, not because they can't do those things, but because that version of them isn't the one you met in the dreamy haze of Ditto. Now you're not watching dreamy visuals or aesthetic montages. You're watching real-time PR. And it's not whimsical. It's awkward, complex, strategic. And the more you learn, the more it becomes clear. The closeness you felt was always carefully staged. This is something uniquely K-pop. In Western pop, you probably couldn't name the label behind Sabrina Carpenter or Olivia Rodrigo. Sure, occasionally, an artist like Taylor Swift will drag her label into the spotlight, but generally, Western music companies' dramas stay in the background. They're infrastructure, not lore. But in K-pop, the company is part of the story. Hybe, SM, JYP, YG, these aren't just labels. They're world builders, brand ecosystems, characters in the larger K-pop universe. A new group from one of the big four doesn't start from scratch. They arrive with inherited clout. Fans expect a sound, a style, a storytelling format. And that's exactly what happened with NewJeans. They didn't come out of nowhere. They were engineered to look like they did. Ador was technically a new label, but it was backed by Hybe, the home of BTS, TXT, NHypen, Lee Seraphim. The mystique was calculated. The mythology came pre-packaged. A mysterious new girl group, no teasers, music first debut, curated by an industry legend. It was disruptive, it was clever, and you bought it. Min Hee-jin may have been the face of the vision, but the illusion was a team effort. And now, that team is fractured. And if the magic was never just one person, what happens when the team splits? Can either side recreate the same spell? And here's the kicker. No matter where the girls go, the illusion is gone. If they stay with Hybe, every single detail will be analyzed. Every look will be compared to old NewJeans. Every silent moment will be interpreted as shade. Every interaction with a staff or label mate will be scrutinized. If they dare to reference Ban Hee-soo or bring a new uncanny version of the bunny mascot, it won't feel meta anymore. It'll feel haunted. If they nod to their creative process in a music video, fans won't see it as introspective. They'll see it as commentary, as subtext, as drama. Even the quality of their music videos will fall under a microscope. If a new MV shows the girls walking through a park or brushing their teeth in grainy lighting, it won't reek of girlhood anymore. It'll be questioned. Why are they just walking? Did Hybe not give them enough budget? Is this supposed to be symbolic, or is it lazy? The same stylistic choices that once felt charmingly understated may now feel like cost-cutting or creative stagnation. Because once the illusion breaks, simplicity no longer feels like a choice. It feels like a limitation. But if they leave Hybe, that raises a new set of fears. Will they be creatively restricted under a new label? Will they be protected? Will they have access to the same resources? If the company isn't as rich or illustrious, that visual minimalism won't be read as aesthetic anymore. It'll be read as a downgrade. If the music videos look less polished or stripped down, people won't assume it's intentional. They'll assume the budget is gone. The magic? Gone with it. If the music stays the same, it'll be accused of recycling the past. If it evolves too much, fans will say they lost what made them special. Either way, they're walking a tightrope, and the space between authentic evolution and brand betrayal is razor thin. That's the trap of a perfectly crafted brand. It becomes a box. If you stay inside it, you're predictable. If you step outside, you're disloyal. And unless the next move is flawlessly executed, they risk losing either their identity or their fans. Because now you, the fans, the casual listeners, know too much. The curtain's been pulled back. The mystery is gone. And you're no longer watching wide-eyed from the dreamscape. You're watching from the front row of the fallout. Not as a fan chasing a feeling, but as a viewer dissecting a brand in real time. A case study in how the illusion was built, and how, piece by piece, it's starting to fall apart. The rebrand, from spell to pit stop. Maybe that inexplicable feeling, the ache, the fog, the quiet dissonance, is why Pit Stop is receiving such a mixed reaction. Because technically, nothing is wrong. The track, NJZ's debut under their new branding, retains many of the sonic signatures that made NewJeans iconic. The soft-spoken vocals, the breakbeat drum and bass energy, the understated production. The lyrics even lean into metaphor. Pit stop as a pause, a breather, a moment of reflection before the next lap. It makes sense. It fits the story they're telling now. It should work, but it doesn't quite land. To some fans, the song feels underwhelming. Not bad, just emotionally flat. Like a placeholder in a story we haven't agreed to follow yet. On Reddit and across fan forums, you'll find comments describing it as fine, inoffensive, lacking a hook, or not fresh. It's not polarizing, it's something stranger. It feels like it's missing its center. And that's the thing. When a group like NewJeans, now NJZ, builds its brand on emotional illusion, vibe as vision, and branding as atmosphere, the moment that illusion breaks, the music doesn't just sound different, it feels different. Because Pit Stop isn't just a comeback, it's a test of loyalty, of identity, of perception, and of whether this brand can survive its own unraveling. There's also a haunting irony in the symbolism of the track itself. A pit stop is where you refuel, reassess, maybe change your tires. But it's also where the momentum stops. And in racing, that pause can make or break you. The question looming over NJZ right now is whether this stop will give them clarity or cost them the race. And then there's the casting issue. The girls were perfectly chosen to be NewJeans, to embody the dreamlike ambiguity, the liminality, the nostalgia. They didn't need to exude charisma or dominate a stage with edge or bite. Their magic was in restraint, softness, that lo-fi emotional eeriness that made them feel more like memories than performers. But NJZ asks for something different, something bolder, a little more bite, a different kind of presence, not mysterious, but magnetic, not ethereal, but electric. What NJZ seems to require is a confident, commanding energy, a certain fire that cuts through the fog. And that's not a flaw in the girls themselves. It's a branding mismatch, a shift in tone that their casting wasn't necessarily built to carry. They still look like NewJeans. They still sound like NewJeans. But the stage they now stand on, it demands a whole different kind of performance. When you layer this song onto everything else, the courtroom drama, the public perception shift, the sudden visibility of the machinery behind the brand, it becomes clear. This isn't just about a new song. It's about the atmosphere that song lives in. And for the first time, that atmosphere feels different. Even their signature minimalism, once praised as sophisticated restraint, is now being viewed through a different lens. The same understated styling, natural choreography, and visual simplicity that once felt like an artistic statement now risks feeling hollow. Because context changes everything, and when you're no longer the mysterious new girls in the fog, but rather the center of a national-level entertainment conflict, that mystery doesn't feel dreamy. It feels distant. It's not a matter of whether Pit Stop is a good song. It's whether it can carry the weight of a broken myth, and whether the girls who were born to be NewJeans can convincingly become NJZ'd. The end of the illusion, or just intermission. Now, I can already hear the counter-arguments. You're being dramatic. This is a stretch. The brand is clearly working. And to be fair, there's evidence to support that. Pit Stop was the most searched song on Melon the day of its performance. Over 1.3 million people tuned in to the Twitter livestream. These are not the numbers of a group fading into obscurity. They're still the group. And yes, I do believe those are impressive statistics. But let's be honest. Right now, NewJeans, or NJZ, is the most talked about group in K-pop, not because of a musical comeback, but because of the unprecedented legal and cultural situation they're in. They're not dominating conversation through art. They're doing it through controversy. And in the K-pop industry, curiosity isn't the same as success. Curiosity is attention. It's traffic. It's buzz. And yes, that can be leveraged. It can become momentum. Their next comeback will absolutely dominate headlines, at least in the first week. People will click. People will stream. Everyone will be watching, if only to see what happens next. But that doesn't guarantee impact. It doesn't guarantee longevity. Because curiosity fades. And when it does, what's left behind? That's the real test. The reception to Pit Stop already hints at that tension. Much of the conversation online, on Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, isn't glowing. It's hesitant, fragmented. Curious, yes, but not embracing. People are watching, but they're also questioning. The illusion of effortlessness that once defined NewJeans has cracked. And even though this isn't a full rebrand, not yet, not legally, not creatively, the vibe has shifted. The aura has changed. Even their aesthetic can't exist in the same way anymore. Because once you've seen behind the curtain, everything gets dissected. Every outfit, every lyric, every beat will be read like a court document. And that level of scrutiny can distort even the most delicately crafted brand. So no, they're not over. They're not forgotten. But something has been lost. What comes next might still be brilliant, but it won't be the same.
지금까지 예지전